tall, gangly thing?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of High Roll Radio. This is a live TFT call-in show where you, the viewer, are just as much a part of the show as we are. We are joined today by 3 very special guests. I'm going to go ahead and start introducing them. First up is Bryce Blum, a.k.a. Esports Law, TFT caster, previous competitor, lawyer to the stars. I'm sure you've seen him. You've seen him all over the place. But Bryce, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Lawyers to the Stars is officially going on my business card. Well, I don't have business cards, but if I had them, it would go on them for sure.
Next up, we have k3soju. I'm sure you've seen him streaming here and there. TFT. Soju, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Excited.
Good. And then on top of that, we have the North American World representative. You all know him. You all love him. We're all rooting for him. It's Goobums. Goobums, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Just a little bit tired. So.
All right. So
Wait, hold on. How come Bryce is so much louder? How do I turn him down a little bit?
Oh, you can probably just right click it.
No, it's I can remove him
It's a
from
mic
all.
diff.
Dude, that's a Skype diff.
all right, so
all
for
good.
anyone who doesn't know, we're using Skype for this show. And there's a technical reason for why I have to do this.
Of course there is. I haven't used Skype since like 2015.
I know.
Actually, in the origin, no, you guys are all like, well, Goobums and Soju are definitely too young to remember, but the OG esports, everyone used Skype before there was Discord.
What do you mean? I was playing video games in like 2011, 2010.
Yeah, I was using Skype as well.
Or like 2006, and we were always in Skype.
Okay, fine.
So
we're only normal Zoomers.
Let me get through real quick how this show works, because we'll have a little bit of time to talk, but I want to have some time for some takes to populate. So, like I said, this is a live call-in show. So if you are watching this live on Twitch right now, you have the opportunity to join us in a call, present your hot take, your opinion, your question, and we'll talk about it live with you. So if you're in Discord right now, if you're on Twitch right now, go ahead and use the command !Discord. That will get you into my Discord server. Once you're there, you can see a text channel called Submit Topics. If you go ahead and submit your topic there, we'll see if we like it. And if we like it, we'll bring you into the mic check. But one thing that's really important is make sure once you submit your topic, go into the waiting room, mute yourself. That way we know who you are. We'll be able to bring you in for a quick mic check before we bring you onto the show. Now, we've got a little bit of time to talk before some of those takes come in. So the main things I want to talk about in this episode, and this is important for everyone who's listening right now, is the 3 main topics are the last chance qualifier, reactions to that, obviously, Jing and Lucas. Wait, Lucas was the other one, right? It was.
Yep.
Yeah, Jing and Lucas coming out on top, Ramblin with a heartbreaking defeat at the hands of a tiebreaker. North America losing another tiebreaker to Europe. Doesn't matter what game it is. So last chance qualifier reactions. We'll talk about tiebreaker rules. I mean, that was a pretty arbitrary ruling that ended up, giving Jing the spot over Ramblin. So I'd love to hear some takes on that. We can also talk about predictions for Worlds. North America's chances at Worlds, and on top of that, we can also talk about the current patch that we're playing in going into the World Championship. So feel free to drop your topics there, and we'll pull a couple for the show. Now, for the 3 of you guys, while we're here and while these takes come in, let's talk about last chance qualifier. Everybody from North America went in feeling very confident about our reps. Aniko, I think for a lot of people was maybe a bit under the radar, but was showing just an incredible amount of prep going in. He was in every stream, every in-house, was really working hard. And Ramblin, just it's Ramblin. Everybody expected Ramblin to be able to come out on top. So just I kind of want to go around the horn and kind of hear everybody's reactions to how they felt last chance qualifier went. Bryce, you want to kick it off?
My first, okay, yeah. I'm sad. I'm that's my predominant takeaway from this. Ramblin is so fucking good at TFT. He is so good, and it is really heartbreaking to not have him at Worlds. It would have been sad if he had made previous Worlds, but given the bad luck string this guy is on in these big tournaments, he is absolutely capable of winning World Championship. And I don't think that's true of that many players in North America or that many players in the world, if we're being honest. But when he's in form, his play is so clean. So just to see him lose on another tiebreaker, and overall he played great, right? I think that the two people who got in got much better roles than him overall. Obviously, you can always go back and look at it, but 6 games is not that big of a sample size. He played great and he just got a little bit unlucky. So bummer. And you know what? And Nico is a player that I think you're right. He has flown under the radar. He's really, really good. He's improved a lot over the course of this set, and he is not quite at the level where I would be consistently putting him in my top 10 players in North America, but he has started to enter the conversation for being of that caliber when he's in form. And I think he's a little bit more patch dependent of a player. I think that there are certain metas that really, really fit his style. But overall, he played great too, and he absolutely could have gotten there. He really only had one game. I think it was game 2, where I thought that he did not play very well. But otherwise, I think he played great. He played great throughout regionals. And so having neither of them qualify, definitely a bummer.
Goobums, what were your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was really sad because I think amongst like some of the other players as well, but Ramblin was like someone I did a lot of prep with while playing regionals. So this is while we were still competing against one another. And then going into LCQ, I don't think we did too much prep together because obviously like my schedule is a little bit like pushed backwards because of Worlds. But yeah, I mean, part of it is definitely like I'm a little bit sad like for my own sake that I won't be able to like prep with him nearly as much because although like I'm sure he's going to be willing to help out where he can, like the dedication obviously like goes down a little bit when you don't qualify, so that's a little bit sad. I think it's also really sad that other players, like obviously in North America we kind of like highly respect Ramblin as a player, but other regions might not know him that well, so I think other regions getting kind of the opportunity to see him play stripped away from them kind of feels bad for sure as well. So just like I think having watched so many other regions, having watched so many other players, like I genuinely think Ramblin's like pretty much like a top 5 player in the world. So yeah, it's just kind of sad.
Soju, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think Ramblin's easily a top 5 player in the world, if not like top 3. But it really depends on like patches, I guess. But it's just like so personally, I didn't really watch LCQ or Last Chance qualifiers. I was just playing like Hearthstone and stuff, but like when I also don't really watch that many Twitch streams like recently. I only watch like going into regionals like VODs and stuff. But when I do watch Ramblin play, like it's really calculated and like you can just tell. Like he knows what he's doing. Like he's a solid ass player. So it sucks that he can't go to Worlds. But I think for the other 2 participants, or the 2 people that did make it, Jing and Yuso Lucas, we actually did watch a little bit of Jing play, but we only saw one game, and I think that game was like pretty horrendous. Like from him, it was like, but since set 1, everyone has respected Jing. I think Jing is a really solid player. And like, yeah, we meme about like 2KLP and like a Turkey, like some, and no one plays in that garbage region, but like he's also consistently like top 5 in EU, and he's really good. So like I'm cool with like Jing making it to Worlds, and also Yuso Lucas. Like Yuso Lucas in last, did he make it to Worlds last year?
He did,
yeah.
He was in the set 5 World Championships. And real quick, I want to add this because I remember Bryce and I talked about this going into Worlds for set 5, that like everybody talked about Robin's insane run at the North American Regional Finals. Lucas had the same exact thing, but actually better than Robin's in the where is he?
It was LATAM, right?
Yeah, LATAM. Yeah, in the Latin American. Oh no, actually he's Brazilian.
He's Brazil?
Yeah, he's Brazilian. In the Brazilian qualifier, he had almost exactly the same scores in the final day, but had a similar run in the group stage as well. So he had something like an average placement of like 2 point whatever across like I guess it would have been like between 12 and 18 games that they played. I mean, this guy in Brazil is nuts. So I think it is well deserved.
Yeah, I think he's the best player in Brazil. Like last set, I remember he was boot camping in NA, and he had like a 2.3 average or something at like 1600 LP. In every game, he plays something different. Like he's definitely like I don't know about the other BR players, but like he better be like one of the best in BR. So like I don't. At the end of the day, like yeah, it really does suck that he lost another tiebreaker. But I think the LCQ is like a really good format, or it's not a good format, but it's like a good idea. And being able to see Yuso Lucas and Jing at Worlds is like 100% acceptable. Like I think
it was. Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no,
yeah.
It was super hype. I know you didn't watch, but LCQ was one of the most fun I've had. Some of the most fun I've had watching TFT in a long time. It was a great addition to the like overall qualification system for Worlds, and I hope it stays.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys. Well, it sounds like Bryce went through all of Ramblin's games, but guubums and Soju. I'm assuming you guys did. You guys go through all of his games from LCQ?
Oh, okay, so I haven't like gone through it with a fine comb, whatever, some
fine tooth comb. Yeah.
fine tooth comb. Yeah, but I plan to like in terms of for prep heading into Worlds, but I co-streamed the games with Bryce and some others, and we watched like most of the spots he was in because we were only flipping between Nico and Ramlin. Truth be told, like NA, so I think it's pretty fair. But yeah, we thought he played well. So
I want to talk real quick about. I don't know if we're gonna get a call about tiebreakers, so maybe I'll make this kind of quick in case we want to circle back to tiebreakers. But like the fact that he lost on the tiebreaker of least amount of eighths. Did Bryce and guubums, you saw his 8th place game? That game was the most insane. I actually did the math. Basically, for those who didn't watch it, in my opinion, the most low roll part of this was that Ramblin could not, for the life of him, find a Malzahar 2. I counted, it was 40 shops between finding his first Malzahar to making a 2-star copy. So I did the math on it, on like where that ranges in like percentiles of probability, and basically it was less than 10% chance that situation happens. Honestly, if Ramblin gets that Malzahar 2 any earlier than he did, he's not 8th that game. He ended up losing by 2 HP to, I forget who went 7th that game. I mean, his spot was like kind of bad, but it was mainly due to the low roll of not finding this Malzahar 2. And if he finds it, he is not 8th and he goes through to Worlds. It was unbelievable to watch.
It's gonna happen sometimes. When we were in the bigger like co-stream during regionals, I think I can't remember why the topic came up. I think we might have been talking about tiebreakers, and I asked like the whole group, there were like 15 people in there, what is more indicative of skill, right? Like of getting an 8th place or getting a 1st place. And in general, the sentimentality was that getting an 8th place is, because almost always there's something you can do to avoid the 8th place that like most of the time when you're taking 8th, it really is at least somewhat on you. Whereas a ton of firsts are just pretty high roll, and you're just so many standard deviations more powerful than the rest of the lobby. And so I don't actually hate the tiebreaker. I don't think that's what happened here. I think this was just the Omega low roll 8th, and that's going to happen sometimes. But we're talking about 3rd tiebreakers. The 4th tiebreaker was performance in the final lobby, which is even more arbitrary. It's just like one lobby out of the whole thing. Yeah, there's a little bit of an element of like your back is against the wall, you need a certain outcome. But for the most part, just one of the 6 lobbies. When you go deep into the tiebreakers in TFT, it's not going to be something that feels really good. So I'm not sure there's like a huge lesson learned here as it relates to tiebreakers and tournaments. I just think it's a BG for Ramblin'.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, what were the tiebreakers? Like, what was like the priority on tiebreakers?
I can go for, or if you, I don't know if you guys remember, but the first one's like first one's like average placement, but like since they use the 1-8 system, like that one doesn't come into play. And then the first one's number of wins, and then number of top 4s. Third one is least number of 8th places. Ramblin ended up having 1 and Ging had none. And then the last one is best placement in the final lobby. The thing is, the reason why, like for example, Ramblin made this exact argument as well, but the reason why like we kind of like looked towards the 4th tiebreaker and we thought that might have been a better tiebreaker, at least than the 3rd tiebreaker, was because if you think about like Worlds, like World Finals is checkmate format. So at the end of the day, even though, as Bryce, you alluded to, it's like an arbitrary game. It's like the last game. It's like, it kind of like resembles that in a way though, right? Like in the tiebreaker format, at least it's like, yes, we've kind of already have precedent for the last game mattering more. So to me, it makes sense, like in terms of like purely a tiebreaker, like that one to me makes more sense. That being said, like I think no matter who you ask, like on like throughout any tournament, like people always like be able to point to like 1 or 2 mistakes that they made, or even like way more, right? That could have, like, you could have gone 1 point here, 1 point there, and it's just like literally like the tiniest things you could have positioned wrong, like literally one fight, right? But if you look at his 8th specifically, he lost on tiebreaker. Like his 8th was tied with another person's 8th, like in 3 different ways as well, and then it came down to like the 3rd tiebreaker for that decided that he even went 8th that game. So I don't know. This is some pretty crazy stuff, and that's why it was like really really heartbreaking, just like watching it. And then we knew going into the last game that he like Ging had to highest get third, and Ramla had to get first for him to make it. So when it came down to the final two, it was already pretty somber.
Man, and the other thing to think about too is that if this were a wisdom tournament, Ramblin advances. Under the wisdom tiebreaker rules, he actually makes it to Worlds. It's just heartbreaking all around. It's so sad. So we have a couple takes coming in. So I'm going to bring a couple of those in, but for all of you guys who are joining us on Twitch, in case you missed the opening, I'm just going to go through it real quick. This is a live call-in show, so if you want to join us live on Discord, just use the !Discord command in Twitch, and you'll be able to join my Discord channel. From there, you'll have instructions on how to submit your take, and if we like it, we'll bring you on air. So I'm going to bring our first caller in. All right, Mr. Incredible's here. Mr. Incredible, where are you calling from?
They can't hold. Can you actually hold on real fast because they can't hear you.
No, we can.
We can, but the viewers cannot.
Oh, really? Oh,
are you broadcasting
quiet?
Skype?
Oh, interesting. Sorry about that. Okay, so then while I figure this out, Bryce, do you want to give a quick recap of what the question is, and then Goobums, you could take it?
Sure. Mr. Incredible, correct me if I miss any nuance to it, but I think the high level is for Goobums, since this is going to be the patch, and they've announced they're not doing a B patch, right? So this is the World's patch. How are you feeling about it going in?
So he's following up right now and just asking about the extra randomness of adding things like Mercs and Prismatics going into Worlds. So Goobums, you can go for it.
Yeah, I'd say like the biggest thing, like something that we were all kind of scared of, is that like the World Champion is just going to be decided by like the Merc game on the very last game on Checkmate format, because like for those who don't know, like the way you win Worlds is you have to reach a certain point threshold, and then whoever wins like after you reach that certain point threshold is the world champion, right? So then at some point, like what ends up happening in these formats is that there's multiple people reaching that point threshold at around the same game, normally around like 4 or 5, if I recall correctly. So then whoever wins like the next game pretty much becomes world champion. And then the thing is, like, even the people who don't reach that point threshold, obviously they're going to want to go first to deny the other person, or like the other people who have reached it, to be world champion. So if you think about like Mercs, like you'll hear about any top players say this all the time, right? Like you see 2-1 Merc, yeah, like there's a decent chance they go 8. That's, I would honestly say like it's pretty high, like certainly above like 12.5%, which is like the 1 in 8. But the chance that they go first is extremely, extremely high, right? Like, so then if you think about it, like at the end of the day, if you see 2-1 Merc on the very last game of World Champs, like most of the time that person's just gonna go first. And there's like, yeah, like I think there's gonna be people like doing certain things to like kind of prevent them from cashing out and so forth, but. Like, so that's like the big one. Another big one, obviously, like kind of like the elephant in the room, I guess, is like Darkstar Mutant. So if like for me, I think Mutant was like a really cool trait that they introduced. This had like kind of like game to game variability, but something that they can't really balance for. I think their ability to collect data on each individual mutant trait is like questionable. So when like certain mutants become like really, really broken, as we saw with like Synaptic, as we saw with Darkstar in the past, Darkstar again now, and like stuff like that, it's like it's just an Elderwood like all the way back then. It's like super hard for them to balance. So yeah, I don't really know. That one's sus. And then
it's okay.
Actually,
we have the tech with no fear. It's fine.
Were you watching Chinese regionals earlier today, Goobums?
yeah, I was.
There's a lobby Darkstar 1, 2, 3, forward.
Yeah. No, that happens pretty often.
Like, dude.
No. The worst thing is like the real prismatic. Okay, there's 3 prismatics in Darkstar lobbies. There's Pandora's Box, there's Phony Frontline, and there's Mutant Crown. The thing is, one of those is an actual prismatic, but 2 of those are silver. So, like, if you get dummies on turn 1, and like everybody else doesn't, you actually start up with like 3 prismatics over everyone else, and like it's not actually a contest. And like Pandora's the same thing because you just spams these zeros and stuff. I don't know, it's stupid. But anyways, yeah, it's not it. But then actually, I think like aside from that, I think like what they like that. All that being said, like I still think like this is probably one of the better patches. Definitely the best patch in 6.5. Not that like 6.5 had the best patches kind of like thus far. But I think going into Worlds, generally they do a good job balancing it, just like judging from last Worlds and the previous Worlds before that as well, even though like the set might have had its problems. But then like another thing that's like really, really problematic, at least in competitive play, is like 4-6 prismatics. Like Soju has talked about this like infinite times at this point. But like 4-6 prismatic can like turn a really, really good game into like a really terrible game, like out of flip of switch, and same with like a really terrible game into like a really good game. So it's just like so much variability all at once.
Yeah, I feel like that augment, like the stage 4 augment, should not be swinging 5 placements. Like you're like 70 HP, like the next, like you're like maybe 3rd place. You get a bad prismatic, you're going 7th, even though it was probably a guaranteed like 5th at worst. Like I don't know.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Ahead.
Keep going.
Oh no, but yeah, I think the match is actually pretty good though. Like Guubums was saying, like I think set 4 had like 3 good comps: Cyber, Star Guardians, and
Set 3, that's set 3 you're talking about.
Oh, that was set 3. And what was set 4?
Set 4 was like, okay, pretty much.
It was Keepers.
Keepers,
they
KO,
do a good job.
And Slayers. But Slayers was like by far that Worlds patch was not that good, if we're being honest.
No.
Slayers,
I think it was like they made it so that like the
by
3
Worlds
costs were
it's fine.
playable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like like people were playing like Kalista, Sivir, Kindred, right, mid game.
I mean, the
You'd have
winning
like the
comp deck
swapping
was
of
was the
Chosens.
Nidalee Riven, right? The like super.
No, that's set 5.
Oh, you're right. It's a 5.
Yeah.
don't know.
Set 4 was like the winning comp was like Kale. It was like the weirdest thing. It was like 3 people.
Yeah, it was the KO into the capped Slayers Samira 2 board.
Yeah, it was like a triple, like it was like something with a clone, but it was 3 people remaining and 2 people died on the same turn. It was like some rock paper scissors, weird. So anyways, AJ
It was
Walker
also just
won
a Zyku diff. I mean, Zyku had a board that on paper was much stronger, and he got hard outpositioned by LJ logging.
Oh,
Like,
that was such a
outpositioned.
sick moment too, because the swap was fast, and
Yeah,
he
it
was
was
and
fast.
and
these KR players are different.
and he
At
was playing on
swaps?
like 200 ping or something, right? Like he was playing from KR. Like I don't know what the ping was. It couldn't have been that good.
Guubums, what do you think about like AD versus AP?
Oh, okay, yeah, like okay. I think no matter what, there's an itemization problem for AD versus AP. Like I don't know why AD carries are allowed to have like 5 different best in slot set of 3 items. Like you could go like Deathblade, GA, like Last Whisper, IE, like GS. They're all like best in slot. All AP carries have like the same 3 best in slot. It's one of Shojin or blue. Yeah, it's one of Shojin plus or blue, and then like for Ari and Renata, it's Gunblade. And the thing is, like, no other unit uses Gunblade. Like, you're not putting Gunblade on Victor. That does literally negative, right? So it's like there's an itemization problem. But in terms of like number of comps that are played AP versus number of comps that are played AD, I think it's actually like very, very reasonable. And also, okay, like I think we're like bringing up maybe a couple too many negatives. I actually do think, like, all this being said, I'm actually pretty happy with the state of the meta. I think there are like some outliers that I'm like really unhappy about, and I'm obviously going to voice them. But like keep in mind, like this is the most competitive tournament of the set, right? Like supposedly, so like obviously, no matter if there's any sort of like imbalance, like we're going to be unhappy about it. But I still want to say like overall, I think they're doing a pretty good job, especially like some of the augment things. Like I know, like for example, Soju was kind of like talked about it like at the start of the set. Like they made mistakes that I thought they could have easily known that these were mistakes going in, right? So then it's like fixing those, like I was pretty happy about, but yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Set 7 is going to be the best set.
I remember people talked when 6.5 came out about augments having a bit too much power, right? Versus set 6. I'm remembering that correctly, right? That's been like a pretty big criticism for a while, and maybe part of that was like things like Titans in the beginning or whatever. But like, I'm curious to hear Soju's opinion on this, just because you know Soju, you've been vocal about a lot of different things in TFT across like different sets, but I'm curious to know your opinion on like the place that augments have in competitive play. Do you think that it is still like possible to balance augments in a way that isn't just like horrible in competitive?
I mean, like you want to play a game with RNG, right? Like the RNG is what makes you want to keep playing. And like as you guys were saying, like if you go 8th, like chances are you like messed up somewhere, like you did something wrong. And I think even with augments, that's the same thing. So I think people that are saying like, oh, augments is too much RNG and that's why I go 8th, like that's just BS. Like you're just bad. But I think with augments is like when 6.5 did get released and you see like true 2s 4 score in 3's company on stage 3, like is your game not just over? Like I don't get it. Like the fact that you can even be offered Verdant Veil, like high-end shopping, like all these garbage, like it's just, and like not to mention like stage 4 prismatics, it's so bad. And like if they just do a better job of like I get it, casual players like probably want to see prismatics on stage 4, and if you just completely eliminate prismatics on stage 4, that's like one set of like one set of being able to see a prismatic in your game eliminated. But like for casual players it sucks, but I think like for competitive it's like it'd be really good. And I get it, like they don't really want to only balance for competitive, even though like a lot of the stuff is balanced for competitive, which is nice. But at the end of the day, like I like augments. Augments are really fun. It's just I wish what they did in the last patch for augments was like kind of, I feel like it's like I don't want to say like I don't want to make it feel like, oh, I told you so, but like I played the set for one day and I called out everything that was changed in the last patch. And I feel like it's not even about not having play testers or whatever. It's just straight up, you just look at it and it's like, this is not acceptable. Like Verdant Bale on stage 2, like Windfall not getting buffed, even though Rich Get Richer is like 14 gold. Like how can a prismatic be 4 gold differential? And the thing is, Rich Get Richer can actually like outscale it, but whatever. It's just like, but that's what I mean. Like I think augments are a great idea. And that's why I think set 7 is going to be amazing.
So I just to push back. So I macro agree with you. I obviously agree with the substance. Like the changes that came out of the last patch were super necessary. The point I've been making whenever this topic comes up, and I kind of tend to be the contrarian on this, is designing a new set of TFT is really, really hard. And so yes, in hindsight, this does feel on the more obvious side of things, and I agree with the take that it probably could have been changed earlier, but they're changing so many things and trying to control for so many different things in at any given point in time. And Moore has been so transparent about the reality that the team is pretty small and they're always pulled in a bunch of different directions. And so it's not always easy to get all the different things right. And it's possible there were tons of other things that they were working on that they needed to work on in order to get to the set into a decent starting place. And so they didn't allocate the time or energy to this particular problem. And so I always try to take a step back and look at this a little bit more holistically. So I can agree with you substantively, but I don't think it's as simple as like, okay, you can just play, anyone with a brain would play this for one day and would fix this problem. I don't think it's quite there.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Well, I was actually going to move on real quick, but if you have something you want to add, go for it.
No, I'll move on from like the kind of like that point specifically, but like I think more kind of teased that augments in a way are here to stay. So I like something like we can I think all easily agree on is that like augments are like really enjoyable at the very least. Like okay, maybe the competitive aspect of it is a little bit kind of like missing, but like at the very least it kind of like draws you to want to play TFT more. Something that I'm really interested to see is like I don't know how they're gonna like re-implement the augments like that we have currently, but something we talked about is like maybe like they offer it less or like there's like 2 augments per game now because they have to like mix that with the new set mechanic in set 7. So I actually really want to like see what they can come up with the set 7 like new mechanic and how that might interact with augments, and then I think that's like gonna bring like a whole new aspect to it that's gonna be really enjoyable.
Mr. Incredible, I think that's all the time we have for this take. Is there anything you want to shout out before we move on?
No, just good luck to guubums at Worlds, and
thank you.
Yeah, peace out, everyone.
All right, take care.
Later.
Thank you.
All right, we're just gonna go straight into the next one. So I'm gonna bring on our next caller. Connor is here. Connor, where are you calling in from?
California.
Very nice. All right, well, Connor, what do you want to talk about?
My question is about how you guys view the rate of increase in the overall understanding of TFT from like set to set. More specifically, if you could take a player from like set 10 and put them in set 6 regionals, like how much would you expect the difference in their like average placement to be just from like, so like my question is overall about like how much experience impacts players from set to set.
All right. So Bryce, I want you to start this off because I'm going to frame it like this, okay? You are set 1 competitor, right? You played in Twitch Rivals, did pretty well from what I remember. If you were to go back right now and replay that tournament, knowing what you know now about the game, how much of a skill difference do you think there actually is?
There's no doubt in my mind. Assuming so, there's control for the fact that TFT is both knowledge and skill. right? So there's the skill stuff that we progress on. Knowledge is like understanding of the meta and not just the what is your in-game board look like, but like how you're prioritizing early game, mid game, late game, when you're rolling, all that type of stuff. So assuming a high level of knowledge across the board, there is no doubt in my mind I would win the set 1 tournament, and it wouldn't be close. The difference between how good we are now and how good we were at set 1 is like it is unbelievable how bad we were at TFT at the time. We really did not understand a whole bunch of nuance to the game. You know, there was a period of time. I mean, never forget there was a period of time when we all hyper rolled, right? Like literally, if you were playing a 1-cost reroll comp, everyone like rolled the 0 gold on 3-1, and that was the way. And then when someone changed that, I think it was I can't remember who started it.
Ace.
It was Socks.
Oh, it was
Socks
Socks.
was the one. I know Socks popularized it. I can't remember if he was the person who originated the concept, but either way, that everyone was like, "Wait a second, math. We probably shouldn't do this," right? And that's one really simple example, but there are so many things that we did horribly, horribly wrong in the early days of TFT. I do think that as more and more smart people have applied themselves to the game, the amount of learning set over set has decreased significantly, and that is indicative of every game. It's the same thing if you took like a League of Legends Season 4 team and played a Season 1 team, the Season 4 team would destroy them, right? They just know so much more about the game and map movements, all this different type of stuff. And the same thing can be said of TFT. I do think that between now and set 10, there will be some other major leaps forward in the way in which we approach games of TFT. The fun thing about TFT is that it's so RNG based, it's hard to play a perfect game, but we do set over set really develop the skill parts of the game, and I don't expect that to stop anytime soon.
What do you guys think, Soju and Goobums?
I agree. I think like if you were to go back to set 1, I think it's different if you were to go back to like set 4 or set 5.
Yeah.
I think it starts to get like more and more, or like less fundamentals and more like everyone's fundamentals is getting better and better. But I think just like read your read on the patch, like what you think is strong, what units you want to play around early mid, the path that you take early mid is like more important than, like, for example, like even if you had the best fundamentals in the world, and you will go back to set 1 and you don't realize that Shapeshifters Dragons were just like broken, then you probably wouldn't do too well because you're just gonna get run over by like half the lobby. So I think there is half knowledge, half fundamentals, but I think over time, I mean, go Kubas. I'll like I need to think because I wanted to like actually talk about this because me and Nature's actually argue about this a bunch of times. But go ahead, Goobums.
Yeah, I would say like the rate at which people are learning probably like over time has to decrease, because if you think about like the jump from like set 1 to set 2 has to be bigger than the jump from set 2 to set 3. That's not to say like the jump from set 2 to set 3 isn't big, but like you would assume that you're learning more when you know less, right? So then that being said, like I think someone from set 10 would probably be better than someone now, and probably by a significant margin. But I think that being said, the difference between a set 10 and a set 6 player is going to be less than the difference between a set 6 and a set 2 player. So I think like as Bryce alluded to, like if you send any of us back into set 1, we'd probably wipe the floor with the competition so long as we know the meta. Like as Soju was saying, like if we know Shapeshifter Dragons are broken, like my ability to play it is going to be better than like a set 1's ability. Set 1 player's ability to play whatever that comp is, right? So no matter what, I would imagine that we wipe the floor on. And then as Soju also alluded to, there's an element of RNG that like no matter what you really can't like fully overcome. So there's always going to be that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think like no matter what, people are getting so much better set over set. I think like as more players are kind of being drawn in, I think actually in the last couple of sets we've like seen a lot of innovation. So it's just like different ideas. Like I think a problem in TFT, and I think people like myself and Soju actually contribute to this problem pretty kind of like a lot, is that we end up like creating like almost like circular thinking. Like Soju says something, and then if I agree with him, then we just go back and forth, and like pretty much no new ideas are being produced, right? Sorry, what'd you say?
I said cube cone.
So I want to because I feel like there's an interesting conversation here about like the parts in TFT history that have been like big pivot points. And the things that come to mind for me is like set 3, Polt comes out, starts pre-leveling on 2-3, starts playing hyper aggressive with like how he levels in the early game, which completely changed like the trajectory of how people played stage 2, right? In set 2 we have like some sins where people aren't playing straight comps anymore. They're now like playing around like flexible units and building strong boards on the spot, right? Like there are shifts, not even just like in the meta or in like, I guess it is more of a knowledge thing, but there have been like these really big moments in the history of the game that just changed the entirety of how we think about the game and what we consider strong, what we consider like even a skill. That I wonder like, what is the next step in set 7, set 8, set 9, set 10? What's the next development?
Okay, so I like this is gonna sound like I'm like super cocky, but I promise you I have watched more TFT than possibly any other person on the planet in like the last like two months, right?
I don't mean to brag, but
no, that's like reverse bragging if anything. That means like I'm
get a life, Goobums.
I'm not doing anything else, right?
Yeah, Showtime says it's him. I'm down for it to be Showtime. You work. This guy does not work.
Oh.
Oh.
No, but like okay, like I actually watch, right? Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that like I think, and I talked about this with like the people I was prepping with. So like Sox is one of them. Like I talked to Bryce about this. I've talked to Dan about this. I've talked to like Noobowl about this, and like I've talked to Bird about this who quit. But like I think I'm not gonna say like before Worlds. I'm probably gonna like do only all this after Worlds. But I think like there's a fundamental misunderstanding of like what tempo really is in TFT, and like when I described it to them, I think like to them it made a lot of sense. But like, because when people like use the word tempo just in TFT, like they're kind of like conflating a lot of different things all together, and it's like it's kind of like getting like really muddled. I'm not gonna say like me like telling people about it is gonna like somehow kind of cause like some TFT revolution, but I think it's gonna change the way like how people like kind of like approach. Like I mean maybe just like how they approach using that term, and like I don't know. I think that it's gonna change the way like some people might like view certain things.
Some player starts to push the bounds on some topic, and then other people learn from that player and then adapt it to their own style. And so, you know, you can go way back, right? Even before you start talking about Pool, I think GV8 really pushed forward the game a lot in terms of his willingness to just slam everything, right? Like at the time, people were like very focused on best in slot, and GV8's like, fuck best in slot. I'm going to slam every item in the game, and I'm going to play tempo that way, right? I'm just going to always slam my items, always have as much power on my board as I possibly can. And that changed the way people thought about item slamming, and people started to think about slamming the power of slamming suboptimal stuff, right? And Pol, who really didn't originate, if we're being honest, like I don't think it was Bebe either, but like it comes from Korea and focus on early pushing of levels, and people started to learn that. And then there was open forwarding and people really understanding how to like play loss streak and how to play around lose until you win, and then once you win, you just win out. And people have started to perfect that play style. And I think what guubums is talking about with tempo could be another example of an evolution. All these things are just clubs in the bag of a TFT player, though. If you were a good TFT player right now, everything I just said, you know, as well as lots of other things, right? So you know, if 3-4 sets ago, it would never have occurred to you to level to 5 on 2-5 or sorry, on 2-2 or on 2-3. Whereas now it's just like, if you're not thinking about that, then you're pretty bad, right? Like you should at least be considering the possibility that it's correct under a certain set of circumstances. And so I think that is the arc of TFT, is people are constantly pushing the bound, learning from each other, adapting to their own play styles, and evolving.
I feel like we've talked about this topic for a bit, and it's a really interesting conversation, but I know we do have a lot of takes. Soju, was there anything you wanted to add before we kind of wrap this one up?
Wait, Goobums, what do you mean by tempo? Like
Yeah,
it sounds like this is going to be long. It sounds like
it's so long. Like
okay.
Like I could do like a fucking is it
like Hearthstone related or like
no, but like okay, so for example, okay.
Just give the short version, 1 minute or
like
less.
A short version. Yeah.
Okay. So I won't even give a short version, but what I will do is like I told you, Ren is like a Hearthstone pro. Like he was an ex-Hearthstone pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like pretty much, I used Hearthstone like tempo to explain it to Ren, and to him like it made like infinitely more sense than like almost anyone else I explained it to. And it's just like if you like think about like tempo in Hearthstone versus like tempo in TFT, they're used very differently. But I think like if you use them like the same way, then you understand like it's probably like easier to understand what like I view as like tempo play. And like you might even disagree, like even when I do explain it to you, or like if we ever get to that point, but like you might even disagree with me, and that's fine. But like it's just when I explain it to him, like using Hearthstone like as the frame, it made a lot of sense. But like I just think like in TFT people just say like, oh, I'm playing tempo, just means like, oh, I'm playing my strongest.
I'm playing strongest.
Yeah. Which is like to me it's like, yeah, you're playing strongest, which is fine. but that doesn't necessarily mean you're playing tempo in my opinion, right?
All right, we're gonna move on to the next take here. But Connor, thanks for calling in. Is there anything you want to shout out before you go?
Not really. I mean, you could follow my stream. It's twitch.tv/ConnorIsMe. That's CONNER and then an extra E on the end of me. Just in case anyone gets curious about how low the bar is to be an NA Challenger player. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm GM.
It was, yeah, but I mean, everyone knows you wouldn't be if you really wanted to. So, all right, thanks.
All right, thanks
Hey,
for coming on. All right. Well, I'm gonna go straight into this next one. Then this is actually I'm very excited for this next take. I think this may be a bit spicy, but all right. I like cats. Is here. Let's see. You're still muted right now.
Oh.
All right. Yes, I like cats is here. Where are you calling in from?
From Quebec, Montreal.
Very nice.
Canada.
We get quite a few Canadian callers on this show, actually. All right. I like cats. What do you want to talk about?
All right, I tried to come up with a spicy take. So, with NA having 4 spots, 1 spot should be given directly to the top ladder player for set 7.5. And I think the main argument for this would be reducing variance, since tournament play always has a lot of variance. Even if they are different, tournament play from ladder play, it makes sense to have 1 spot that has 0 or little variance involved.
Okay, can I start on this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I know Bryce. Like I can just.
That's why I wanted this one. I already know Bryce's take on it, so I want to hear what
this
you
is
think.
like I feel like we're like Soju and I are heavyweight fighters. It's like round number 18 on this.
Yeah,
topic.
but let me
do
give you the perspective of a player.
Okay.
Like
So-
I'll have like the middle between them, by the way, probably.
Okay, I get it. Like tournament play is different from ladder play, as the question, like as the sorry, what's your name? I like cats, as I like cats has said. And I definitely agree. I think when everyone you can't play how you usually play, and there's a lot more. It's like coming up with stuff like with less resources because you have less HP, less gold, whatever you have, like less best in slot items.
Free rounds.
Yeah, less free rounds. You can't just cash out on like Showtime out of nowhere and just chill. But what I'm saying is
strays, bro. He's a child.
But like in set 6, I think ladder has been really like no one. So like what happened in set 6 was I think only 2 players qualified to regionals through ladder snapshots, and ladder has just been like 2 and then 2.
But the second one, you already know that one was a fucking meme. They got it in.
Yeah, like what
30
happened was no one even cared about ladder, and you could actually just be ranked 1 for 1 week of the 4 in the second half of set 6, and you would have made it to regionals. It's because there's so little slots that everyone's just like, okay, whatever. Like I'm not gonna like sit here and sweat every single day just to do that. But if they were to give a slot to Worlds from ladder would be so fun, and I think everyone would get so much better at TFT. Because everyone right now is just you don't get punished for playing bad, and when you don't get punished for playing bad, you don't really improve because you improve more by bot foring because you try to like look for what you could have done better. And like sure, some games you top 4 and you can still find something that you can improve on, but I really think just like ladder in general has been more boring this set. Nothing to do with the set, it's just how the competitive format is. A lot of like good players. I know like Ramkev, even Spencer right now. I'm pretty sure Spencer's like GM as well.
GM did.
Yeah, it's like it's not like they're actually GM players. Like they're really good players. It's just that when you get them in a lobby nowadays, it's like, is it even scary anymore? It's just like you're just hoping that they don't care, and that's why I think it would incentivize like a higher level of play, and I think that is more consistent and more fun overall.
All right, Bryce. Let's hear the counter argument.
Okay, so Soju's take is a little different this time, and I actually agree with him that making ladder play fun is good. Making ladder play feel important is good. Some of the most fun I've ever had watching was the race. It was Soju, Ray, and was it Ramkev was the third, right?
It was Ramkev, Soju, Ray in a way, and then
It was so fun to watch them like duke it out, and Ray had that crazy run at the end, and it felt like maybe he was going to get over the hump, and it was really, really compelling. And I think that if you I do think that ladder was probably undervalued in regionals qualification this year. You could talk me into the fact that there should be more regionals players qualifying based off of ladder performance. I think that's super fair, especially ladder performance on the 0.5 set, because it's representative of some level of skill of the current thing. My macro take, and I've had this argument so many different times, but I do think that my position, just because I keep having this debate, is evolving a little bit in terms of my ability to communicate about it, is that ladder is indicative of skill. Ladder does say something. There are not that many players that are capable of consistently being top 10 on North American ladder, or are consistently capable of being over 1600 LP on the North American ladder. Actually, it's a really hard thing to do, but it is indicative of a different kind of skill than being a really good tournament player. And while they overlap, they are not the same thing. So like every NBA player is a very good pickup basketball player, but that does not mean that the best pickup basketball players are also going to be good in the NBA. It's a very different format. The style of the game is different. The expectations of the player are different. It's the difference between being a solo queue warrior in League of Legends and being someone who can play professional League of Legends in a 5v5 team, organized environment, different type of pressure on the map, different type of map, control requirements, moving around the map is different. Everything is really different in that format. And the same can be said of this. So while Setsuko's accomplishments as a ladder player are unbelievably impressive, what the skill he is displaying is that he is very good at pub stomping. He can consistently dominate players that are much worse than him at the game. And while that is a impressive skill to do it as consistently as Setsuko does, that is not the same thing as being one of the 4 best tournament players in North America. It's just not. And I actually think Setsuko is a fine tournament player. I don't think that Setsuko he's clearly the best ladder player in North America. He is definitely not the best tournament player in North America. He might be in the conversation, but he's not. There is a disparity there. And so that is why I would be vehemently opposed to the notion of qualifying a world's participant based on tournament, based on ladder. I would be totally fine with upping the number of people who qualify for regionals based on it. And I agree with Soju that making ladder compelling is a worthwhile endeavor. And so it's something we should be thinking about in designing competitive formats.
Where do you fall on this, guubums?
Okay, so I've had like this debate with Bryce like literally infinite times as well. So, but I kind of like fall in the middle. I think like where I agree with Soju like completely and wholeheartedly is that I think ladder play, and this is a concern I literally raised to Natures and like and other like people who are kind of like within the scene, like literally as soon as they announced the format, that like killing ladder play or like making ladder play kind of like less good is only going to do harm for like the competitive players, right? I think like as Soju alluded to in set 6, I saw 2 slots going to regionals from ladder. I said like there's no way, like it's not worth the stress. It's not worth, like, you have to stay on top for every single patch. That means like no matter how good you are, like I don't care, like you're probably gonna have like one bad patch. Like Setsuko dropped from like 1700 to like 1100 for a patch, right? So like even someone as consistent as Setsuko has had a bad patch. So it's like, for me, it wasn't worth the stress. So I just said, nah, like I'd rather go in through the tournaments. And obviously I ended up making it through the tournaments. So that being said, like I think like where I agree with Bryce is like, I think there should be like some sort of like some way to incentivize ladder play, or sorry, where I agree with Soju is that there has to be like something that's incentivizing tournament play. I do think like admitting someone to worlds through ladder is like super sus. Honestly, I think maybe more advantages in terms of like seeding, in terms of something like that, can be afforded to people who are making it in through the high spots on the ladder. So I don't know how much you guys are familiar with this, but like in Zon and Piltover Cup, for example, like you got to skip like day 1 by being like top 32, and like yeah, that's like a pretty cool accomplishment, or like pretty cool thing, but like that's like a 1 week snapshot, so it's not even rewarding you for ladder consistency, which in my opinion is what you should actually be rewarding people for. It's literally rewarding you for being good on ladder for exactly like 1 minute of like an entire set, right? Like to me, I think that's like the worst of both worlds, right? Like it's like the reverse of consistency, and it's rewarding you. Yeah. Anyways, and then like as for like the tournament play, yeah, I do agree. I think like tournament, like even in-houses can't at all kind of like simulate tournament play at all. Like if you saw me, like Soju literally made a post on Twitter like 3 days out before regionals. How he's like, oh, like NA's shaking, And then it's his score. So he goes 1-1. And trust me, I played in like literally all of these, and I actually did think Soju was really good. I still do, but like I thought going into regionals, I thought Soju was really good, right? And then under his post, I post a picture of my scores, and it's literally just me going 6-8-8-8-8-8, 6-6-6-6-6. Like I'm pretty sure I was averaging a 6 in in-houses, because even though I know like I have to take them seriously, part of the reason, like part of the way I improve at TFT is like I have to test things, right? And the best way to test them is against the best players. So I'm not going to be testing them on ladder nonstop either, right? So I just don't think I don't think in-houses can even simulate like the environment. And I think like given the pressure or like how like maybe the stakes, I don't exactly know how to describe it in terms of like there's enough of a difference that like admitting someone to the world championship through ladder to me doesn't sit right. I do think there should be like some sort of advantage afforded to the most consistent ladder players. I don't know how. Like it's an entire discussion I think as to like how you want to implement that, but. Yeah, so I really do fall kind of like straight in the middle of like kind of where these two stand, I think.
No, I actually agree with Bryce's take. Like you guys are right. Like you don't give a world slot to ladder, but like they need to incentivize it so like ladder.
Yes, they have to. Like ladder is so like if you look right now, you can go on anybody's tier list of top 10 players, you add up their LP with the exception of Setsuko, everybody's like 1K. Literally, you go on any consensus like top 10, top 15 list, you check all 10 to 15 of those with the exception of Setsuko, everybody's just fucking GM, 1K, like 700, like some probably people are probably
I have the most LP on this show. It's 2 lit.
Yeah, Bryce has I mean, it's so, and I'm playing Worlds, like I should still be playing, like at least, like I'm playing TFT, like Soju at the very least is like not really playing, like I am playing TFT, and my LP is hot garbage.
Your OP is Bryce low, bro. Not good.
All right, now we have kind of like a counter argument take that I want to bring in that we can just kind of we can talk about real quick. I know Bryce, your time's a little bit limited, so we'll try and get through it real fast.
I can go 5 to 10 ish over, but that's it.
All right. Well, I like cats. I think we're gonna move on. But is there anything you want to shout out before we go?
No shout outs. Thank you for your takes, and I think I agree. I think the main point is rewarding ladder play. That's what's important. But my take was a bit too spicy. World spot is too much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your take. We'll see you.
Thank you
next time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I'm just gonna bring on this next caller right away. I don't know how to say your name. I think it's Dehua.
Yeah.
Well, you're here. Where are you calling from?
Delaware.
Delaware, and what do you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah, I like heard the previous question. I was like, dang, my question is very, very similar. Well,
it is.
Take is. So I said ladder is super overrated, and if you have a robust tourney system similar to the one this set, the best players will qualify 100% of the time. So I think like in terms of like regionals qualifies, I think that is like 100% like the best system we've had so far. I think it's gonna be very hard to improve, and I think to the point, I think I like Catsmate. I think having a world spot directly allocated to worlds, like from ladder, is like really, really bad because ladder and tourney are 2 different types of games, and I think you went over that. But I think this is where it's like a little spicy, and it's like it's why people like Noobowl are like super, super overrated by players, and he still fails to qualify for worlds and get out of day ones in these most competitive tourneys. So
Guubums.
Yeah, Guubums just died.
Guubums, tell me. How overrated is Noobowl?
Just listen. Let me let you in on not even the biggest secret, but like the biggest secret of TFT. Nobody watches TFT. Okay, listen. People rate every other player on reputation alone. I promise you. It doesn't matter. Like, okay, there's maybe like 5 people. Half the pros do not watch each other play. Like Bryce watches more than like probably every single pro, honestly. But like the pros do not watch each other play, so everybody's rated on reputation, right? So then like when people say like X is overrated, X is underrated, it doesn't matter. Like it's literally just all based on reputation. That being said, I have watched Noobowl. I have talked to Noobowl. People who say he's overrated, it's because they don't watch him play, man. Like I promise you, Noobowl even now is still like, okay, I'm pretty sure he's gonna quit, but like assuming he doesn't quit, he's still like a top 5 player. I don't like it doesn't matter that he gets day 1. Like first of all, if you saw his last game, the game that actually like determined his qualification, it's the most illegal triple prismatic. Me and Sox could have closed our eyes and top 4 those games, and we actually closed our eyes and top 4 those games. We went second, third, and the first place was a Merc Soul player, so like that doesn't even count. you cannot top 4 that spot under any circumstance. I don't care how fucking good you are. It's just not possible. So like the people who say like Noobowl is overrated, I'm pretty sure like you just don't watch him play. Now I know like even like Bryce will say he's overrated, but like okay, the thing is Noobowl is rated in a way that's like he's like the unanimous number 1. So like for if you're saying like he's overrated in the sense that he's not the unanimous number 1, that's fine. But like you can't swing so far in the opposite direction and say like this guy's not even a good player. Like oh he's getting like day 1. Like that's like the stupidest take. Like I promise you that's the stupidest take.
All right, I want to just give my opinion on this real quick. So I think there is a world where Noobowl is both overrated and is still an incredible player. And this is how I want to present this.
I think that's fine.
Think about like set 5. The narrative, and actually, Goobums, I think you're right when you're saying that like it's all about just reputation. It's just once someone says something on stream, one player, if Soju says on stream, Noobowl is the best player on the in the server, everybody now thinks Noobowl is the best player in the server. There's no way he doesn't make top 8 at X event. I also think though that judging by the numbers, a lot of people know, like, I love to look at the stats, the results, the average placements, like, game by game of these tournaments. Like, you cannot tell me that Noobowl has results that emulate some of these other players that are able to deal with low roll or however you want to say it. Like, Noobowl has the set 4 regionals, right? And besides that, like, what else has he done?
Okay, let me let you guys in. Okay, no. Please. You gotta let me take this. Yeah. Just let me tell you like who this is coming from, by the way. This is proof that nobody watches competitive TFT. Gangly has Soulless. Number 1 on his tier list.
Okay. Hold on. I can defend myself.
Spent 4 hours VOD reviewing with Soulless, and by the end of it, he said, I am down to pivot to TFT influencer because oh my God.
Okay, hold on. I can defend myself here. There are 2 things that are very important. One, nobody can high roll as much as
Yes, you can.
There's no way. I mean,
dude, just watch him play. No, that's what I'm saying though. Like, you can't look at like on these sample sizes and like judge like you have to watch him play to know how. Like, if you don't watch someone play, then your opinion on how good you think they are literally is completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. I'm sorry. Like, it's literally the fact of the matter. And the thing is, look, like at the end of the day, if you're silver and you're watching someone play and you're trying to judge how good they are, chances are that probably doesn't matter either. But like the assumption is that if you have like the base level of knowledge required to understand like how a good player is good versus how a bad player is bad, then you have to watch someone to know whether or not they're good, right? Like, you look at their stats, like you could literally high roll 20 games on ladder and have like a 2.0 average. It's possible. Like, is it unlikely? Probably not. And you probably do have to have some sort of skill to do it anyway. But like at the same time, like, and like in some ways I appreciate the work that you do when making like your numbers. Like I think those are like cool stats to keep it track of. I don't think that's the only metric you should use to like determine how good a player is. And the fact is, like, when you put Soulless number 1, I promise you did not watch a single game of Soulless play. Like, just tell me you did and you're lying. So like
No, wait, that's not. See, this is the thing. Wait. Back up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He definitely watched Soulless play some games.
No, he didn't. No, he actually didn't.
The problem with
like
Soulless,
not those tournament games.
The problem with not the games that you're thinking of, right? The games where he's like looks like GM level player. But the thing about Soulless is he's like the widest band of variants of TFT skill expression of any of the top players, because there are games where Soulless actually does play really good TFT, and there are games when he plays just garbage TFT, and he's making plays that are like, I honestly can't believe that people perceive like that you're perceived up here if you're playing in a way that, like, if I was coaching a master's level player, I'd be like, this is probably a mistake you shouldn't be making, right? So they can both be true. And I think that actually this steps back to the macro point of this take. We've really focused on the Noobowl thing, right? But the overall point was starting from the notion that like a robust tourney qualification system, right? This was not a robust tourney qualification system. I think this is about as good as we can expect them to do under the circumstances, because the problem is, without having a large amount of prize money, you can't have like way more tournaments, way more games played to actually significantly increase the variance. CP Maokai was talking about Chris Moneymaker. Like, the World Series of Poker main event is designed to reduce variance as much as humanly possible. It is played over a week, right? You're playing like 14 hours a day every day for a week. It's designed to slow format to be as skill expressive as possible. Chris Moneymaker won it, and he played terrible poker throughout the event. And so the level of sample size of all of set 6 tournaments was still significantly smaller than the World Series of Poker main event. So it's very possible to get lucky through this system. I agree that it was a step in the right direction. I'm not sure how many more steps we could possibly take without significantly upping the prize pool for these events. But the notion that this was a fully robust tournament system and that the players who made regionals were just the best 24 players, I strongly disagree with that. You had multiple outliers making it through that were not the 24 best players by the time we got to regionals. It was a pretty good field. And if I listed my 10 players that like, these are the 10 best players in North America, all of them were in the field, at least all of them that wanted to be, right? Like it's
Ramkev
like Ramkev, didn't Kiyun, like wasn't playing or whatever, but the people who were actually in form, like Pocky is obviously one of the 10 best players when he's in form. If you don't think that, then you've never watched Pocky play. But the people who were in form in set 6, top 10 qualified, it's a good step in the right direction, but there's a lot of variance still coming to play in this tournament system.
So wait, okay. was there anyone who I mean, you listed Pocky and Q and 2 players who like weren't playing really set 6, right? Or 6.5. Was there anybody that actually would be ranked in the top 24 that did not qualify? Ramkev obviously did qualify, turn it down. I don't think there is.
I would have to go back and look at the list of who.
Broccoli's the only person I could think
best
of.
players. Yeah. I'm trying to remember who else was on the list.
I think Bird quit, but he didn't qualify. I think Bird is like
Bird is so good.
He
just
trust
Bird is
good.
Yeah. Yes.
What I'm saying is players who tried to qualify and did not. Broccoli's the only person I can think of off the top of my head.
A couple things. Sorry, I did want to hear Soju's take. I don't know if he has one on this, but sorry, go ahead. My bad.
No, I agree with you. I don't actually watch that much TFT. I don't watch anyone play until it's regionals. But the thing is, last regionals I watched Noobowl, and this regional I watched Noobowl, and like every time I watch him, I'm just like, what the we're playing a different game. Like that's like I don't think I say he's the best because like everyone else says he's the best.
Oh yeah. But
yeah, like he was the best going into the tournament. Like,
and it was like so unanimous.
Yeah.
Yes. Like he was so good. But I mean, it's 6 games, right? And like, yeah, that last game, he actually, like when I got day 1, he got day 1. He actually messaged me on League, and then he was just like, we were just like exchanging words and stuff. And then I went to go look at the VOD, and that game was a tragedy. Like,
the last one, right? The triple
it was unplayable. It was just straight up unplayable. Like you're playing for 4th at best, and then it's like chances are it being it's like over like 80%. It was crazy, but like I'm sorry, Dehua, this take is complete garbage. Like like the thing is,
okay, can I respond? Or
yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
I mean, I don't know how many of you guys watch the NBA, but he's the Nikola Jokic of TFT.
Who? Wait, what?
Dude, Jokic has the worst team of all time. Dude,
yeah. Okay.
No. But like, you look like this guy's so good, and then he goes to playoffs and he shits the bed.
I think there's an element of this that is fair, which is that he can be Noobowl. His potential can be up here, but if he consistently is not playing up to his level in tournaments, which I think is a fair criticism of Noobowl. I think there's a version of Noobowl we see when he's playing his best that absolutely is in competition for best on the server, and it is not. I've studied most of his tournament games because I'm so interested in this outstanding player that is consistently not performing that well in tournaments because I think about the ladder versus tournament distinction. He underperforms in tournaments. There's no doubt in my mind.
I think that's fair, but I think at the end of the day, it's just like it's like the take that bothers me, And like it's one thing to say like I don't know. The reason why I have respect for Noobowl more than almost like pretty much any player, even though obviously everybody has respect for him, is because like I literally think I'm the best player in the region, right? And Noobowl taught me how to play. And Noobowl taught DQ how to play. Another he's also going to Worlds. And Noobowl taught Nico how to play. He went to LCQ. Like Noobowl taught like half of us how to play the game. So it's like, and then if like all the other top 10 players like unanimously put Noobowl like top 3. Like, I mean, there's a reason for that, right? So then when people who don't know, when they talk, like, oh God, it just
it's when people start saying Milk is bad.
Or yeah, like Milk's like AFK the entire set, and then they're just like, oh yeah, he's washed. Or like
he's washed.
Dude.
I mean, sorry if I don't know if I can talk, but I just
No, go ahead.
I just think like there's no reason you could ever put Noobowl 1 with his previous tourney performances. You just can't do that bad. Like you could be the best player, right, in like TFT, but if you're choking at these previous tournaments, right, you're performing like under expectations after every single tournament, right? Like he's gone into all these different sets as like the best player in North America and still hasn't been able to get to like these day 3s consistently, right? Like
I mean, okay,
I just think oops, sorry. I just think you can't say he's won. Like you can say he's top 10, right? But you cannot say he's won. Like especially when you have people like Milk who've DQA who have proven that they are
DQA,
able
dude,
to get
stop it.
I know DQ is a bad example because I mean he didn't play the game for like for that, like saying like Milk is like not number 1 when he's proven when he like tries like he can get to these places consistently. I think it's like
you're starting from the premise that he's choking though, and as someone who's watched all of his tournament VODs, I think there's a gap between choke, like he has been on the bottom band of variance across these tournament games. I agree that he's not playing up to number 1 player on the server level in a lot of these tournaments, and it's hard for me to say exactly what's going on there. There definitely could be an element of the mental of the tournament and the pressure's getting to him, especially since he has this narrative of being bad in tournaments, so there could be a little bit of additional pressure. But it is not fair to say that Noobowl is just like straight up a choke artist. Like NBA basketball is not a game of variance, right? Like show up and play or don't. And if you can't show up in the playoffs, that's saying something about you. I don't think it's fair to just look at the results of Noobowl's tournaments and say, well, then he must be choking, because if he actually was the best player, he would be winning every tournament. That's not how it works in a game of variance.
I mean, okay, so I think stats are definitely like good to look at. And I get it. Like Noobowl's stats are not that impressive when it comes to tournament play. But I think this is the first time that people actually think he's like one of the best going in. And I really think he would have made it to day 2. And I think in like set 5, I think he was easily a top 5, top 10 player, like top 5 probably in set 5 regionals.
Oh no, regionals he was AFK.
Oh, regionals he was AFK.
Okay,
but he's been, like, pretty
trust.
good.
I'll tell you Noobowl, because I'm literally you can't pretty much, like, I am a known Noobowl simp, but here I'll tell you what. You have to contextualize like some of the tournaments, right? Okay, when people say like XYZ is good, like oftentimes it's like kind of a reference to like how good they are across like multiple patches, right? But then like, so for example, when something that like that's often like repeated that upsets me is like when Kyun says something like, if you go into any tournament, it's just like a 1 in X chance to win the tournament. Like for me, I don't think that's true. What I think you might be able to say is that if you average out, let's just say like the top 10 players in NA, there might be some sort of rough order, but like maybe like if you average those 10 players out through like a long period of time, then those are the top 10 players because they perform well over a period of time, right? But I think in any given tournament, like going into it, people have like varying forms. For example, like on certain patches, like some players, it's going to suit like some players' playstyles more than others, and the players whose playstyles that patch suits, those players are going to on average perform better. So even though you might be able to argue that they're on the same tier of player, like depending on their form going into a tournament, the chance that they do well in a tournament increases or decreases depending on like, let's just say their form, right? For simplicity. And then you also have to contextualize like some of the tournaments like that Noobowl is doing well and poorly in, right? So for example, like one of them is like Dawnbringer and Nightbringer Cup. At the time of like Dawnbringer, first of all, like me, Spencer, and Setsuko actually all didn't sign up to that one because we didn't know what was going on. So like you could that just kind of like shows you kind of the interest of like some of the top players going into that specific tournament. It's just like pretty much what I'm trying to say is that nobody's preparing for it. Like nobody's like, oh, like in a counter example, or sorry, like an example, like kind of the other extremes, like going to regionals. A lot of us are VOD watching. A lot of us are doing in-house. It's like, trust me, none of that shit's going on going to Dawn Cup. And then like, I don't want to make excuses for him because like obviously like some of it is on him to do the preparation. Some of it is on him to not be AFK. Right? So like that is all on him. Like that's where I won't excuse him. But another thing is like if you do bad at some of these big tournaments, like in set 4, for example, he did make it to the last day of regionals. Like he was top 8. I think he ended at like 6th overall. Yep. Like that I mean, like you can say that's bad, you can say that's good, but like, you know,
I don't think you can say that's bad. I feel like maybe the way I approached it in the beginning made it seem like I was on the side of saying that Noobowl was bad in tournament. I actually think that Noobowl is I do actually think that maybe he was at least a little overrated going into some of these events, but I also think that Noobowl is not nearly as bad in tournament as people say. And the only reason I'm saying that maybe he still is overrated is because I think guubums, maybe you're not, because you are at the top level and you are in these actual conversations, like maybe you don't hear the echo chamber, but like in set 5 there was a period of time where it seemed from the outside looking in like it was impossible for Noobowl to not top 8 an event. People spoke so highly of him that it seemed impossible for him to not event. So, like, I hear what you're saying, but I think there actually is just a world where he is both overrated and also still really good. And I don't think he's had the tournament results that have lived up to his reputation. But I think a part of it is that it's been unfair on both ends of the spectrum, where, like, people don't really know where to put Noobowl. Now, I do want to wrap up. I know we talked about, we kind of lingered on this take a little bit longer, and I want to try.
Can I make one final point? I know the person has to go, but the one final point I want to make is that it's not all variants, and that, like, for example, this regionals, I think guubums was actually the best player on the patch in the tournament by a fairly wide margin, and I would say that there's basically no amount of low rolling that guubums could have had that would have not caused him to advance day 1. I think his lines were so wide and consistent and clean that short of like what happened to Noobowl in game 6 happening to him in like 4 out of 6 games, guubums was making it to day 2 no matter what. So there is that opportunity of skill expression, and I think that Noobowl has fallen short of that at times despite the expectations.
All right, well, Dayu, thank you so much for the call. Is there anything you want to shout out before you go?
Not really. I mean, thanks for having me on, I guess. Yeah.
Apologize for guubums going at your throat like that, but we appreciate your bravery for coming on.
This guy's
here.
a guubums watcher.
Okay.
Gangly, I am a guubums watcher.
I am gonna dip for the last call, Gangly. I gotta go.
All right. Well,
but
Bryce,
thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, everybody.
That was fun.
Guubums, soju, stay free.
Bryce, we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for joining
later,
us.
friends.
All right. So, Bryce is now gone. It's just the 3 of us. Dayu is gone, and we're gonna bring in one last caller before we wrap up the show. And Doomboy is here. Doomboy, where are you calling from?
Hello. I'm actually decooning in the Twitch chat, and I'm calling from Denmark.
Ooh, European.
Yeah.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
I just want to ask a question about EU versus NA. It goes back to something Milk said a couple of weeks ago. He thinks it's a complete joke that EU got one more spot at Worlds than NA. Do you guys agree with that? Is EU really that bad?
Soju, how bad is EU?
Okay, I don't think they're bad. And I think it's just fun to basically anytime you say anything about EU, the EU viewers just get they really want to support their region. And that's why it's so funny. But I will say that I think NA is actually better than EU. And I don't think they're better. I don't think NA is better than France when it comes to TFT. But like I don't want to say like EU is just like all of EU is bad. I think the French community is like, or wait, did someone just leave? I think the French community is like insanely good. They have like circuits and everything set up. And I think whoever won regionals is it like
double,
and then I think is there more like French players or something?
I think
or no?
Coco, double. I think those 2 are the best.
Wasn't top 8 like a bunch of French players?
There were 4 French players made it through.
The French community is really good.
4 or 5,
I think when it comes to like the EU region as a whole, I think they're definitely weaker. And I'm actually willing to say that I think NA's, or I'm actually stealing this from Milk. This is what Milk was telling me, and I actually really agree. I'm not like okay, I am a Milk simp, but what he said is 100% correct. Like I think NA actually has one of the best fundamentals, but we don't like experiment enough, and we don't.
He stole that from me.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It's also from Milk because he was saying the fundamentals are really good, and I agree. Like I think our way of thinking about the game is really good, and we have like this, like it's not like optimized obviously because the game is just like it's always you can always play better, but like when you look at like China play, they are so greedy. But the thing is, their greed is actually it looks like it works out but it's not supposed to work out.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
works. It works out because their line is so they know what's broken. So like for example, in regionals of or not regionals, was it
Worlds
regionals?
of
China
5.
regionals? It just happened,
Oh.
right? China regionals just
Yeah.
happened. And there's this one person in the lobby, and he basically either plays strongest board into mutant or he plays full open into mutant. And it's like his read is that mutant is strong, and I think his read is correct. Like I think that was his read, and then his path was just it's just like really linear. I think sometimes you're just trying to do I think me especially, I try to do too much in trying to do like flex play when most of the time it's not even worth it's not even worth holding these pairs. Like upgrading these pairs, is your stage 3 really going to pop off? Hell no. But I think when it comes to like knowing not to level on 3-1 and all in out of nowhere, like KR just leveling to 7 out of like thin air with their 5 gold
For an Alawi 1. Yeah.
for an Alawi 1, just puts in some garbage, just lost all your money. Like what even is that? And then I feel like when you watch some of the EU players play or any region, I'm not saying the top players is like all of them are bad. Like a lot of them are fucking amazing at the game. I think Double is probably like one of the, if not like the best player in the world right now. Like best player in the world or like top 3.
I think Double is top 5.
Like he's amazing at the game, but like when you watch like one of the less experienced players play, it's just like, bro, whatever. Let's go ahead. I feel like I talk about this too much.
Okay, so because Gangly mentioned it, like I'm happy to stay on the show as long as Soju is. So like just because Bryce had to go, I don't know if like how you guys want how to manage that. Like up to you, Soju. But like okay, for this question, okay, EU is not like okay. Part of it is like it's a show, right? Like I don't know if like the viewers understand this or not. But like so when Soju says like EU sucks 1, 2, 3, like I mean part of it is like he's putting on a show, like that's a content, right? And like obviously like it so obviously draws in like an emotional response from either side that like it's obviously doing something right.
Yeah,
so like let's just
get incentive.
Right. So like let's just get that like out of the way, like first and foremost. Now that being said, okay, I think like the Soju actually pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think some of the French players are actually like really correct. I think Double's better than me, and I already told you like I think I'm the best player in NA. So that by like transitive property, I think Double's better than everyone in NA, right? I didn't actually get to watch his perspective, but just like I saw the lines he was taking. He won regionals with I think 1 bot 4 or even like no bot 4s, and he played 6 different comps. He took lines like I think he was actually playing tempo correctly. Like I alluded that something like that earlier in the pod earlier in the show. How like I don't think that many people are really playing tempo correctly. I thought like from what I saw like and I was only like seeing snapshots of his play, so I couldn't see everything. I saw a need play. Me and Socks both thought he was really really strong. Obviously like no matter what you're gonna make mistakes. I watched Volta. I think Volta is not good, but whatever. I watched the lines Le Coco played, Le Coco made, and I thought they were also really good. So that's already 3 out of like the 4 or 5 that you are getting that are like I think are very very solid. Like at the very very worst, comparable with the best in the day. Now that being said, I actually watched a lot of like really highly respected EU names in EU regionals, and I thought they were hot garbage. I watched it with Ramblin. I watched it with Socks. I watched it with some of like NA's best players, and no matter what, when you're watching someone, you're always going to be able to like see mistakes. But I actually thought like some of the mistakes were completely inexcusable, right? Like I saw a guy leave a Frozen Heart Echo default right side, no scout for an entire stage, and like in tournament to me that's not exactly acceptable. Like you don't default it on the right, just default it in the middle. Like come on. Anyways, like I don't know, like.
Okay, so
I don't even know if that answered your question. I don't even know what your question was. But.
Well, hold on. I'm going to reframe this real quick. I'm going to reframe this. Okay, so one of the ways I think we could realistically see an NA versus EU is like obviously we're never going to have NA versus EU playing 100 games, but I think if we wanted to see like what the average skill level of the two regions would be is 16 versus 16. We play 6 games in 4 different lobbies, however 6. I guess we could actually. I'd have to, however many lobbies, whatever it is, 16 EU players, 16 NA players, all qualify either like through regionals or like top ladder, however you want to do it. How likely is it that NA takes that over EU, guubums? And I think this is more a testament to like the depth of skill in
yeah, I get that. Okay, so here's my caveat to like this whole kind of entire like conversation is that I didn't get to watch. Oh, like I pretty much only watch players that like I respect or like that I'm curious to see what they're doing. And what that means is that I'll watch players that I think are taking lines that I wouldn't take or like playing in a way that like I think might be cool. So then that being said, like in NA, I can only tell you, like at least for tournament play, like regionals, I only watch like 10 to 15. So I don't have like the grasp on like the depth of NA, like past, let's just say like 10 to 15. And I think like there were some players missing. Most notably, I think Bird and Pocky are like Bird, Pocky, and Ramcav were the three that are like really, really like super, super solid players. I think like almost anytime they're serious, they're top 10. So like we're missing a couple. So that being said, like I've watched some of them. I thought some NA players okay, when people say like, oh, like you're just talking shit about EU, like no, I'll talk shit about, and like I saw some NA play and I thought they were hot garbage too. Like I don't have any like homer bias. Like I think Ramblin is good because I think Ramblin is good. I don't care where he's from, frankly, right? So to answer your questions, like I watched a lot of EU players just because their regionals was going on at the same time and it was in the morning. So I was just watching through all their games in the morning and then just playing our regionals at night. I thought outside of like a handful of EU players, I thought they were hot garbage. So like, truth be told, I'm pretty sure NA takes it, but like I can't say for sure, but like I think NA takes it in like that hypothetical.
I think Aniko was saying he was telling me about something like rank 1 on demand players, and I'm pretty sure NA has like 15 rank 1 on demand. Like if 15 players in NA, if they cared and they tried to play well, they would hit rank 1 for free.
Yeah, assuming like the other rank 1 on demand players on like
the are not trying to like
exactly
yeah,
just like hard contested. Yeah,
but I think in EU, like I mean I don't play in EU, so I don't know, but so it definitely is biased because we only get to watch like the format is not that good, right? Like we're only watching certain
patches
players
as well.
play.
Yeah,
certain patches, certain players. It's just when we watched regionals now, it's I'm just like mind blown on some of the like lines they take. But like I'm sure you can watch like one of the weaker NA players, and then they're probably just like, "Yo, NA is so shit."
Yeah,
like,
I mean, honestly, you could probably watch me
it's
sometimes. Like I or like any of like even the stronger NA players, you could like watch. Sometimes like you watch their line and you're like, what the fuck are they doing, right?
Yeah, I don't mind if they take a different line than me, but it has to
make
have,
sense.
Like, a gameplay. Like it has to make sense. You can't just do something that's blatantly incorrect.
Exactly.
And when I see someone do something blatantly incorrect and then they're still competing at regionals, I just get
a little bit. You get tilted, like straight up. Yeah.
Yeah, like. But yeah.
All right, Doomboy, you have any follow up to their thoughts?
I mean, I completely agree. Actually, I think that NA as a whole is better than the EU, but that's mainly because,
Let's go, Denmark.
You're gonna get shot.
Nah. But that's mainly because they're all way too danking me.
All right, well,
they're way too what?
Way too danking.
Oh, am I loud about it?
No, it's just it's just funny.
Way too dank.
Doomboy, thank you for the take. Is there anything you want to shout out before we go?
I want to say that even though I think NA is a better region as a whole, I think that double is still going to take it.
Oh, I mean, I even said the same thing like when I was talking to some of the EU players.
I
was like,
surprised.
If EU wins, it's gonna be double. Because like I actually think that no, that guy's really good. I was trying to look for his VODs too, but yeah.
All right, well, Doomboy, thank you so much for the take. We appreciate you coming out. All right, so we've got another one coming in right now. We've got Yami Dude or Jukyu. Jukyu's here. Where are you calling from?
Hey guys, I'm calling from New York.
Very nice, very nice. What do you want to talk about?
All right, so I don't know how many double players there are in like the chat or whatever, but my question is about double up, and this is a really good audience actually. So Soju obviously played in the double up tournament that Riot hosted. I guess Wisdom hosted, and guubums and Socks played a fair amount of double up in the beginning of set 6 or something. So I saw them a lot in that. But as of right now, there isn't so much like talent that actually plays double up. So what do you think it would take? What would it take to get more competitive interest in double up?
I mean,
Yeah.
I personally think double up is way too hard. It's not that it's like when you're competing, like when we were playing in this duo tournament, there are so many more opportunities to do stuff, and it's so much less variance because you basically are playing two games at once. But it's just it's too hard, and I'm not. And also, I think to take it super seriously competitively, you need to have someone that's like willing to play fucking 18 hours a day as well, and that's like it's kind of hard. And also, I think they're balancing around solo queue because I didn't really watch too much of the double up tournament. So I think they remade it, and Robin and Ramblin played on the actual double up tournament because there was like some issue with TR or something. And I think they were talking about how Double Trouble won every single game. And that's just because someone can send you a free 3-star, and then you're just basically way ahead of like the curve, and you just win every fight instantly. But that was also because Double Trouble was just strong. But like that's what I mean though. Like Double Trouble was balanced around solo queue. I really think like for Double Up to pop off as a mode, it needs to have its own balance. Like similar to how ARAM, like Ari has like reduced damage, takes more damage or something, or I don't really know what it is, but like double up is a lot of fun and there's a lot of potential. It's really hard to like optimize, but yeah, I think the first step is to have a separate balance, which is a huge budget. So I don't know.
Have you played a lot of double up goobums?
Oh yeah, I played a lot.
What are your thoughts?
I'm opinions on it. Okay, so actually, like before when Double Up first came out, sorry, or like was announced, before I played my first game, it was literally the first day. I was just watching other people play, and I made a tweet, and I still in a way stand by this tweet, but like I actually think like Double Up, in many ways, could be like the future of like competitive TFT. Like I had literally, I think it was like a 5-hour conversation with like Bertosaurus when it came out, or like soon after it came out, when we got some reps on it, that like this is probably like a better way to do competitive TFT, because like as Soju already talked about, like it's a lot harder. There's a lot more depth to it, but it's also like you're lowering the variance because you're splitting the variance between like two people, right? And it's not done in a way so that like, for example, if one person low rolls, it doesn't mean you lose the game. Like you probably both have to low roll to lose the game. And the thing is, if you low roll for your own spot, it doesn't necessarily mean you're low rolling for the other person's spot, right? Because like say I'm only hitting AP stuff, but I have AD items. The fact that like I can make it so that my partner's playing AP and then like make it like that, it just like it reduces the variance by like more than just kind of like half, I guess. So I don't know. I thought like in a way Double Up could actually be the premier competitive format. I think they have to like pour a lot of resources into it. And as Soju said, I think like the balancing has to be done specifically for Double Up. Like they have to want it to be competitive for it to be competitive. I think the fun aspect actually is there. I think once they like polish it and release it again, I want to see like, I hope like maybe like for example like Soju obviously is a really big TFT influencer, for lack of a better word. So I think like I would hope like someone like Soju takes interest into it, and like we can see kind of like how it grows from there. But I think like it has to start from like Riot first, because they released the beta, and I think it was intriguing enough to get people to want to play it, to want to see more, but I just have to see kind of where they're going from there to really know.
I think team formats in general are something that really need to be explored in TFT. Mainly, I mean, for the reasons Goobums outlined, which I really love, of this idea of like reducing the variance. I mean, if we explore some sort of like 4v4 format, right, and we're getting 4 times the amount of sample size that we would normally get. I mean, it's like we want the best player to win on average. And I think the best way to do that is to either have more games or to widen the bullseye, right? And that's where like having this idea of Double Up maybe being a premier format actually does work out, because on average, in theory, the best Double Up team will win more often than the best solo player, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think that there is a world where Double Up does make more sense and has higher competitive integrity. I think the problem is just like, one, the investment required from the players to now learn this brand new mode. Also, it's like, so does solo queue qualify you for Double Up events? And going back to what Soju has said, is like the Double Trouble thing was not the first time we saw the meta break in Double Up. Like there is a lot of work that needs to be done to rebalance the game in a way that makes sense for Double Up. And at that point, it begs the question: does a good singles player what does a good singles player make a good double up player? Because if the metas are that different, are they suddenly they're forced to prioritize different units in the early game? Like, does the mid game change? Like, there are a lot of questions that come out of that. And if nothing else, it's like, are these players who are good at double up just abusing the things that are actually just broken in double up? So there is, I don't know, there's a lot that needs to be done, but I'm also on the side of like team events are probably somewhere in the future of TFT. We just have to figure out like in what capacity are we going to, use them. Juku, you have any follow-up thoughts?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the big reasons why I'm on the show is to just give more visibility to double up. I think Juan Guubums said it would be really great to have a sort of big influencer in this space, but also there's just no one streaming double up. And specifically, I think, let's think back in set one when TFT was starting and, you're trying to get good at the game. What do? You go and pull up, it could be Soju. I don't know who else was a big streamer back then. But you go in and you go watch the current top players play the game, right? So I feel like there might be a lot of interest, or maybe not as high up in the solo queue ladder, but like there's friends who are invested in trying to get good at this mode, but they don't have the resources. There's not a lot of content out there, so I think but obviously investment from the dev team is big, and sort of is maybe a precursor to more interest from sort of the high elo community. But once we can get people on Twitch showing how to play double up, then more people can sort of up the level of double up, and then as it becomes more competitive, then people will join in more. Because to be honest, it's pretty much a joke right now. There's no challenger. There's like at most 2 or 3 other challenger players who play double up, and they play like masters players.
I mean, there's also no like double up events, right? Like the double up duo tourney is like, it was just like a more like for fun, like international thing
for sure.
It wasn't like something like regionals, like going to worlds, like all like the circuit, like designed around making it competitive. I mean, it is in beta, and if they do decide to like balance around it and put more resources into it, like I think a lot of players would be willing to give it a try. But I think a lot of players are not willing to play it because
there's nothing to
being
play
good
for.
at double up doesn't really do anything.
The other thing that's really cool about double up is that it's a much better way to introduce new players into the game, in my opinion. Like, just, I mean, I play double up with my friends who don't really play TFT because I can kind of hold their hand through the game and say like, oh yeah, you should do this. You should look to play through this. And like, you're either doing that by sharing your screen on Discord, which is like, for me, I would much rather spend the free time that I have actually playing the game. So if I can spend that time investing into my friends who may not play TFT as much, then like, it's a much more valuable use of my time that I'm allotting to TFT. So I think double up is very valuable, and I hope to see a future in it. But Juke, we're gonna keep going to our last caller of the night. But is there anything you want to shout out before we go?
All right, for the like 2 of you who do play double up, I am currently rank 1 in double up.
Oh, wow.
I do stream. We're doing our EU takeover right now, actually. My partner is like on vacation, but when he comes back, we're going to continue our EU takeover. We're like, the top, well, ignoring all the MMR abuse, the top EU duel is like at 7K points, and we're like 9K points in NA right now. We're doing it there we're streaming this time for what I said, so that people can learn how to play double up and maybe up the level a little bit. So check out my stream at like TFT.
All right.
Well, who's your partner?
Who's your partner?
Who's your partner?
My partner is his. I mean, he goes by a lot of names. He plays on his Smurf, which is Ayalea, which he doesn't have a Twitch or anything. I can type it in chat. I don't know what his Twitch is, but you can just go on the double up ladder and see sort of our names posted next to each other.
Why do you guys play double up and not like what do you think double up does better than solo queue?
So this is not a competitive viewpoint, but it's just a more social game. It's just way more
okay.
Like we're both software engineers. We have jobs. You don't really want to all like compare. I did play a lot. Like I'm a challenger player every set basically since like set 3. But like you don't want to really come home and grind quietly by yourself, get your challenger, feel good by yourself. You rather do it with a friend, not like on chat. So it's like this is just a lot more social game.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. All right, well, Juku, thank you for coming on. That's awesome. Good luck on your EU takeover.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna get our last call in for the day. Lil Chief is here. Where are you calling in from?
Oh, what's good? Cali, San Francisco, NorCal.
Very nice. What do you want to talk about?
All right, so pretty much, people know me as Lil Grief. You already know that, but pretty much, I said, what do you think is the difference between, especially like skill level between like GM, Chally, between like 800 to like 1300 LP or like 1300 above? Because we've all heard Soju say like, yo, if you 1000 to like 1600. You're like I, but if you're above 1600, then you're like God mode. But pretty much like, because for me especially, like I've hit challenge before, but like I'm kind of stuck in between like 800, 900. So I just want to know like the skill differences. For example, like I know players in like GM, they tend to, or like players in Chally, like they tend to just know everything, know their outs. Like for example, like Ramblin', he just knows his outs. Like he just knows where to play from like whatever spot. Compared to like a GM player, they just try to, you know, do like cookie cutter stuff. Even Masters players too, Masters of GM, they just do like cookie cutter stuff.
Yeah, so guubums, what's the skill difference between like Soju and Setsuko?
Okay. Soju and Setsuko, okay, whatever. I'm gonna ignore that question for a second. Let me put it on record that this is the worst question of all time. Just listen, right? I don't watch every GM player play. I do not watch every Challenger player play. I do not watch every Masters player play. So how do I evaluate this question? You asked me, what are the differences between Challengers and GM? On average, what is the difference between a better player and a worse player? Just on average, because I don't watch every Challenger. I don't watch every GM.
No. Let me defend him here. Guubums, you are self-proclaimed as an incredible coach in TFT. You have been known for a very long time as being an incredible coach. How are you going to tell me you've never seen a pattern in players below you? There's nothing you can say to that?
Yeah, I think that's what the question is. Like the pattern.
Oh no, yeah, I know, but like even then, like I can answer when I watch you play, but the thing is, the problem is people are asking this from a perspective of like on average, what does the on average better player do better than the on average worse player? And that the answer is literally on average everything. Now there are patterns. Like you can say like, okay, worse players will have worse fundamentals, and what does that mean? Well, that's going to be they econ worse, or they greed more, or they're greeding in spots that don't make sense. They have their reasoning is worse, right? And I can say all that, but what does that really boil down to? Is that like at every point in the game that you have any sort of player agency, you're going to make the on average worse decision than the player better than you, right? That you see why like it's a bad question, because at the end of the day, no matter what, it will boil down to, and I tell you I'm a good coach because I genuinely think I'm a good coach. I think I articulate well, and I think I can identify the problems or a mistake the players are making when I watch them play, right? But the thing is, at the end of the day, like if I can't tell you the, like I don't know, I've said enough. I'm pretty sure I've said enough. I think I've illustrated my point.
But no, you're good. Like no, I understand your point. It's I probably could have like rephrased.
No, it's literally just because I get this question literally every day, and I think Soju gets this question literally every day.
This is like a streamer question. Is that what you're saying? Like this like a chat question?
I don't know.
I think it's just more of like
the question's fine.
I think from my perspective, it's not offensive. I think from my perspective, it's just like I should have rephrased it better. But I think from my perspective, pretty much people always say like, or pretty much let's say like a problem I have. Pretty much like I'm a type of player where like I could consistently play for like a good spot, like a top 4 like safe spot. But then like I would rather up my game and play like in a position where like I could be playing like 1st or 8th. Like I could go like for example like I'm super bad at trying to play mercs. And like I don't know the strongest board to cash out, and I just go 8. But I would rather play a play style like that in order to like reach a higher rank. But right now I'm kind of stuck. Where I'm playing it safe, and I don't know what I should do, because like I've also heard like as a tip when you're watching, because people like streamers say like, oh, you should watch streamers and just copy what they do. But I've always told myself like you should always play in a way where you don't try to like replicate the other streamer, because then you're not really playing to your own like.
Well, okay, I think you should copy them to some extent. Like once you copy them, and then once you think your line is actually better, and you have like a good reasoning on why it's better, then you can like kind of go ahead and just do your own thing. And that's just also playstyle diff. Like I think Robin is like more of like a it sounds like he's like you but better. Like he's like a really strong play from ahead or like, but he can also recognize stronger boards and stuff like that. But I feel like Milk is one of those players that like when he wins, he goes for the win out. And I think he's like the best at that. And there's also people in the middle that like, and then you can also do both, right? But I think I actually don't think the question is that bad. I think the question that's really bad is like when they're like, oh, I just hit diamond. Like how do I improve to get to masters? Like what the fuck kind of a question is that? That's just like you play fucking better. But like no, but this question is like I actually think it's like the biggest difference is like they know the game and a lot of it is honestly you just have to play more. Like if you play a lot, I'm not saying like whoever has more games is going to be better, but like you get into a lot of spots where it's like you're not comfortable in a spot, but that's why you play the game, you play it out, and then next time you're in that similar spot, you kind of like figure out like what was like good, what you did is good, and what you did is bad, and then it's like whatever. But I think it's just like your fundamentals and approach to the game and like how you view TFT is the biggest difference in like the top 20 players and like the players that are just mindlessly just grinding ladder 1100 LP.
Okay, hold up. Just because you kind of asked. Okay, like when you ask the streamers like, oh, what can I do to get better? Okay, the one thing I always say is just watch more streams because it's not like the easiest thing to elaborate on that, right? But like what Soju said earlier you should probably like listen to that more. It's like okay, the first thing you should do is just actually think about like when you do anything in TFT, think about like why you actually do it. Like you level on 2-1, why are you leveling on 2-1? You put in XYZ unit, why are you putting in XYZ unit? And just by asking yourself why you're doing anything you're doing, you'll already get like infinitely better. And then it gets to the point where like if you're watching a streamer in your head, even if the streamer can't answer you, you should ask in your head, okay, why did the streamer do this? And like at the end of the day, maybe the streamer didn't have a reason to do it. And like maybe they misplayed, right? That's fine. But just like ask, oh, why did they do this and why did they not do this? And like why would you have done this or why wouldn't you have done this? And compare your reasoning versus their reasoning, and over time you will get better. Like, but then the reason why the only actual reason why I dislike this question is because it's just like not really a question you can answer. It's like I kind of explained it earlier. It's like on average the better player is better than the worst player at everything on average, right? Just because I can't observe everyone who's at each skill bracket, right? But yeah, like in terms of like getting better, if that's like what you're actually trying to look for, it's just like just get better at like reasoning through your decisions, I think.
Well, Chief, any follow up on that?
No, I just asked that question just because like I feel like me and a lot of people just need some clarification. Like some people will ask like specific questions, but I'm not really looking to ask like specific questions. I'll just try to just improve my game. But no, it's good. I just want to hear their takes. It's all good.
Yeah. Anything you want to shout out? Oh, did you have a follow-up, Goobums?
Oh, I was just gonna be like, I mean, no disrespect to like him or anyone specifically. It's just like that's the question. Like I think a lot of people get. It's just like I'm not really like all that annoyed with it because like I kind of joke that it's the worst question, but I mean it's a pretty bad question, but it's not like that bad, I guess. Oh no, it's not offensive.
So
no, some questions are like
it's not offensive, bro. It's not. It's like I get y'all. It's no flame, bro. Like I'm not tripping, bro. It's all good.
All right, Lil Chief. Anything you want to shout out?
Nah, I ain't gonna shout out nobody, bro. I'm gonna play my game.
All right, man. All right. Well, thank you for joining
us.
Man. All right.
For sure. Thanks. All right, it's good.
Right, see ya.
All right, peace. Thank you.
Goobums just I thought Soju was going to be the one flaming the callers today. I thought
the question was fine.
Yeah, I got flamed by Goobums more than Soju flamed anybody else.
Oh, you deserve it. No flame. But actually, like high key flame.
So that's all the callers we have for today. But Soju, Goobums, appreciate you both coming out here. Before we kind of wrap up the show, anything you guys want to shout out?
Oh yeah, I'm not toxic. You know, I don't actually flame people. That's all I want to say.
That's your shout out? All right. Shout out to Goobums for not being toxic. Soju?
Oh, nah. Oh, Valorant and not TFT. Valorant and Hearthstone recently has been so much fun. I'm not even gonna cap.
But Are you streaming them or no?
Oh hell no! These games are like just fun to just play and like just chill.
True.
All right. Well, Thank you both for coming on. Thank you, Bryce, who's not here right now. Had to dip a little early, but appreciate you all coming on here. And thank you to everyone who called in. Today was a super fun episode. We appreciate everyone's takes who put them on there. So be on the lookout. We're going to do another episode after Worlds. You can follow High Roll Radio on Twitter. You can also follow me at gangly_ to find out when that is. Make sure to follow High Roll Radio anywhere you find a podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever that may be. And also subscribe to my channel on YouTube to catch this VOD, catch a previous episode, and you can find more content in the future. But thank you, everyone, for coming out and enjoying this episode. We'll catch you at the next one, and good night.
Bye.
Bye.